Hey guys, this is Robin with Robin's Crocheted Creations and Spin Crochet Repeat RCC. This is our third video installment of the series You to Yarn Shetland series. I will also have a fin series and a Teeswater series coming up, and also a Lincoln series. Today I'm going to show how to spin some of the Shetland wool that I combed. Like in our last video, I've got several little bundles of this made up, and this is closer to what would be called combed top. It will be spun in what is called a worsted spin. Now, if you've bought yarn or worked with yarn, you've heard of a worsted weight. This is really nothing to do with that. It is the spin that is called a worsted spin. And it is because when we comb, the fabric or the fibers are all lined up with one another and kind of stacked on top of each other, but they should all be in pretty well parallel line. I had mentioned in the last video about the short fibers that I combed out that were left on the combs after getting the longer fibers out and pulled into roving, or top might be the better word, but this stuff. This is what was left behind, and I had mentioned saving it to stuff toys with. And then I got to thinking how maybe I should try making little Rolags. These are typically made on a blending board or on fiber hand carders. If you look up old videos of how they used to work with cotton, or even wool, but especially around where I live, there was a heavy cotton industry, and they would make these little Rolags with cotton yarn or cotton fiber, and then they would spin these on their wheels. I didn't have a blending board or hand carders, but what I did have was 2 pet slicker brushes that I bought at the Dollar Tree, and I figured if they didn't work for this, then I'll just brush my pets with them. So either way, for $2, I wasn't at any great risk. But as you can see, so far as the shape, it has pretty well worked out. How it spins, we'll find out. But they are the short fibers. They're maybe anywhere from this long to maybe this long, and they are combed from one slicker brush to another, and then I pull that kind of layer of fiber off, and I put, because the brushes are so small, I put several layers in with one another and rolled them up together. So without further ado, I will, oh, I did forget. When you use these, you tend to, they tend to be used to spin what is called woolen, where this is worsted because the fibers are all lined up. This is called a woolen spin because the fibers are being rolled this way, perpendicular to where what the yarn would be when on this, and so that is called a woolen spin. And without further ado, now I will start spinning this top. Okay, so I'm going to begin by untying the little knot of comb top. See, there's a lot more than what it looked like at first. Many people begin with a leader on their drop spindles, which is a string of yarn that is tied from here up to here, and it helps them to attach this fiber. I've never quite gotten the hang of that, and I don't really know why. So I prefer to simply pull some of the fiber out. Figure out which hand I'm using for what this morning, I don't know. And I hook it underneath the hook. Now, of course, if you're using a spindle that doesn't have a hook, this method is not really going to work. Okay, so I've got it looped around here like this. I'm going to hold that together and give it a spin. And I'll then let that twist come up into the rest of my fiber supply. And I will draft out some more. Okay, and now I'm going to take what I have made so far. This is what works for me. You may find something that works a little better for you. If you can figure out the leader, then I say more power to you. I take that loop and I hook it on the bottom of my spindle. And then I bring my yarn up through the notch and hook it on my loop. And before I go any further, I'm going to adjust my camera angle so that you can see a little more as it's done. Okay, we'll try this. So I am right-handed, but this is one of those things that you just kind of have to figure out which hand doing what works for you. So I'll be spinning this with my left hand and drafting and holding the fiber with my right hand. Now we have what is called Z twist and S twist. I believe Z twist is one is better for knit and one is better for crochet, but I honest to goodness can't remember which. So I will try to look that up and find out better for the next video. Z twist, if you'll watch my spindle, Z twist goes in a clockwise fashion, as if you're going to go in the direction you would start to write a Z, so it's going to go this way. S twist is, of course, as if you were writing the letter S, that's going to go counterclockwise. So I have somehow gotten in the habit of spinning Z twist. So that's what I'll be doing. And then when you ply your yarn, if you're going for a 2-ply, you're going to want to do the opposite of how you spun your yarn. So if I spin Z twist, I'm going to want to ply with a S twist. And that will help it helps the fibers to stick to one another better. it helps them to, it's almost like they've been spun so tightly this way that once they're spun S-twist, they're not unspun, but they are loosened in a way that when they are then up against that other yarn, then they will be able, it's like they push against one another and they help each other hold their shape, if that makes sense. I hope it does, because I don't really know how else to say it. So I'm going to spin Z-twist like that, and I'm going to draft there. Now, I am a big fan of what's called park and draft. What that is you get the spin going on your spindle, and then you park it. Some people park it in the crook of their arm. Some people use, like if you're sitting down, you could use up against your leg. And it helps to keep the twist from unraveling. And then you draft and let that spin go up into your fiber supply. Once you have enough length made up, these camera angles are just not working good for me this morning. I apologize for that. You're going to want to wind it onto your spindle, building what's called the cop. Now, I didn't get all of the tiny fibers out. Some of them stayed in, and that's going to make these little puffy parts, and I'm totally okay with those being in there. If you're not, you can pull those out. So here we are. We've winded, that's horrible grammar. We have wound our spun yarn onto the shaft of our spindle to begin building what's called our cop. We're going to come back up through the notch and back around our hook. So I'm going to spin again. I'm going to let it build that twist up, and then I'm going to park it. Now I have found that no matter how tightly I hold this, some of that twist energy is going to come up into my fiber supply. So if I unroll just a smidge before I start drafting, it can help me to maintain my consistency better. Let me show you as that continues to spin. It has stopped spinning, but I've got just a little bit of twist left in there. So I'm going to again unhook, roll this, or wind this up onto the cop. And then I wound a little too much. You're going to need to leave yourself some space for that twist energy to build up, because if it goes straight up into your fiber supply, it's going to get difficult to manage. So you don't want to, like here I had it wound too tightly. That's only giving me about 2 inches, whereas that's giving me about 3. And believe it or not, that can make a big difference. I'm going to spin again. and draft, and we are making yarn. Whoa! Spindle went wild. See, I just kind of pinch and twist to unroll just a little bit. I almost said just a hair. How funny would that have been? Corny jokes are the best jokes. There is something almost therapeutic about this for me. I like to stay busy. Sometimes I have myself staying too busy. And doing things like this kind of makes me stop and slow down, yet still allows me to feel productive. And there's something about, I know I've mentioned it several times, you do want to keep your fiber supply back or it'll get stuck in everything that you're doing. There is something about, like I've mentioned several times, the connection with all of our ancestors. And spinning is something that took place in almost every culture around the world in the ancient world. In Native American textiles, in Egyptian textiles, we read, I don't know what each individual person's beliefs are that's watching this, but even with the Bible as a historical document, it mentions working with fiber and spinning and weaving. There have been archaeological digs that have found little pieces of fabric from Neolithic ages. They've found, there was even they're not sure if it was a distaff or a spindle that was found not too long ago, that they believe was from the Neolithic age, from the Viking age. And it's just one of those things that has always been, it's been a part of the existence of humans. And to kind of carry that on, I don't know, I think it's kind of neat. I like a lot of history. That's why they call it a drop spindle. Because if you let your fiber get too thin, you will drop it. Okay, I'm going to show you how to reattach the fiber. This also helps if you have a large amount of fiber that's a little more than what you can handle in one handful. Like what I had to start with, I went ahead and split it. There's the part I've got in my hands now, and then there's the rest of it. And that's totally okay to do, because it's super simple to add in that new fiber. So you're going to want to leave the end a little fluffy. And I've already got some twist built up. So then what I'm going to do is take this end and lay it alongside the fluffy that I've got left, and those fibers will begin to kind of connect with one another. And then that twist moved right on up, and we are going again, making our yarn. So I'm going to roll this up just a bit. As I was saying, spinning is, and textiles, fiber, it has been part of the human existence for nearly forever. And there are many different kinds of fiber to work with. I've got some llama that I will be doing a series like this on. There are a wide amount of people who do what's called, I'm probably saying this wrong, but it's either Shangora or Changora. If I'm saying that wrong and you do that sort of thing, I hope you're not offended, but that uses dog fur to spin. Now it needs to be mixed with, blended with wool of some sort, because it does not have the scales that wool yarn has. I'm going to zoom in here and see what we can see. Whoa, that's too far. Sorry, guys. Let's try again. There are tiny scales on these fibers. You can see that all that curl that we had when it was raw, when it was still in lock form, it's still there. It's just as it's had its hair brushed. I believe I said that in the combing video. It's just as if you had curly hair and you brushed it, it's gonna floof. But all that curl is still there. Sorry, the camera's not focusing. Well, there it is. Llama fiber, dog fiber. I've even heard of some people using cat's fur. It does not have those scales that are very microscopic, and a lot of it doesn't have crimp. Now poodle hair might be a little bit different, but just your typical dog hair does not. I did read an article the other day where it talked about a group of, I don't remember what tribe, but it was Native American women that kept dogs that, it was a particular breed of dog. They hadn't quite distinguished what breed. That they kept them for their fur. And they would take care of them. They raised them for their fur, and they used it to make yarn and thread to make blankets and different things like that. So again, this is something that it is a part of every one of us in some way. Now, even with machine manufactured clothing, the fiber still has to come from somewhere, even if it is lab created acrylic. It came from somewhere, and it had twist added to it, even if that was by machine. If you'll look closely at the clothes that you're wearing, you'll be able to see even this fabric that I'm using for my backdrop. You can see the tiny fibers or threads in there. Every bit of that started out as fiber of some sort. And then this looks like it was likely machine knit, judging by the little V's in the stitches. It doesn't look like it was woven. It looks like it was knit. But Yeah, and I'm rambling, and I know, but I find this interesting, and I hope that we can all start to really look at the different things in our lives that are made up of things that have traveled down from our shared past. We need things in this day and age that can bring us together rather than continue to tear us apart. And that is something else that has been part of human existence, is the difficulties that tend to drive us apart rather than pull us together. And when we can embrace the things that we share rather than the things that we don't, we tend to find that we have more to get along about than what we originally thought. So, and this is something that, like I said, it was in every culture, whether a person be spinning cotton or wool, even all the many different breeds of wool, or whether they be spinning flax or any other kind of fiber, or dog or cat, whatever you might be spinning, somebody 100 years ago was spinning it too. Unless it's acrylic, then they weren't doing that. But you can just imagine it's something that was around 100 years ago. And there's our cat. He thinks he can help. And he does. He's a good moral support when he's not being a bad kitty like that. No, sir. Not for you. No. No. So, despite me telling him no, he messed with everything anyways and knocked everything off. So, here we are back again. Before I finish up the video, I want to show a little bit more about plying. So I'm going to, well, it's not wanting to draft. There it goes. Spin some of this out. And drop it again. But that's okay. That's okay. That's a good stopping point for that. I'll just unwind some from here. So we have our yarn here that we have created already. Now, if you let go of some of the tension, you'll see that it has wound back up around itself. And get the camera to focus. Oh, come on now. Hang on just a second. There we go. See, it has twisted back up on itself. It was like this. And this is how you can check to see about what your ply will look like with your finished yarn. Also, this is actually something I've never tried, but I'm going to try it now, and we can all learn together. I'm going to take one of these little Rolags. There's one that had an edge started on it. Let me find it. Kind of had a little, well, I said there was. Oh, I found it. Okay. Sorry for the lack of preparedness. I'm going to kind of pull this out and see what I can do to add this in. So let's zoom back out and see how this goes. Okay, so here we are. I've lost a little bit of the twist back here, so I'm going to unwind, give it another spin, build up some of that twist. Okay, I'm going to try to keep all of this on camera. Here I've got a fluffy end, and I'm going to add that in there, let that twist travel into it to join it. Okay, I'm going to spin again. And begin drafting from this roll log. And this is actually pretty cool. It's working. I'm a little shocked. A lot of times stuff I do doesn't work first try. This is actually pretty cool. This might, I don't know if it's working better than the comb top or not, but it's, hey, it's still working. And that is, excuse me, that is something that I hope to inspire with these videos. I'm learning so much as I go, and I hope that I can inspire someone else to attempt to learn something new. Find ways that, you know, if you don't want to invest a ton right at the beginning, that's okay. There are many things that you can find ways to do things a little more frugally to see if you like them. And there is no shame in saying, I don't know, but I am learning. And you never know what you might find that you truly, truly enjoy. Something that you might could then pass down to your children. Or if nothing else, enjoy for yourself. All these shorter fibers are kind of making this a little bit of a, almost a tweedish. So we had what's called a slubby there. Excuse me. I untwisted, undid the twist, whatever the right grammar would be. I don't know. Y'all get what I'm saying, I hope. And drafted that particular spot out just a little bit more, and then let the twist go back into it. And there we are. Now I'm going to kind of roll off a bit that is from that roll lag, and then some that was from the comb top, and see if we can see a difference. I don't think that we'll see too much of a difference. So this is a little bit smoother. Let me zoom in. This is more from the comb top. It's a little bit smoother than this is. This has got those little bits that's made more of a tweedish feel to it. But either way, we have yarn. And if I decide to weave with it, I could weave with it. If I decided to do macrame or crochet or knit or knot binding, this simple stuff that started out as little floofy fibers growing on a sheep has now become something that can be used in so many different ways by so many different people. And I just think that's pretty cool. So that is all for the You to Yarn video 3. I will work on getting more of this spun up, and when I'm finished spinning it, I will come back with a video where we will dye it. I am in the process of researching a lot of natural dyes, trying to find out just how they got so many different colors. Way back in the day, we'll probably start out something simple with vegetable dyeing, because that's easily accessible. I'm also looking at using different types of spices to dye fiber, and always keeping my eye out for plants that are local to me to use to dye yarn, because that's how they did it back in the day. They used what they had. So there you go. This has been From You to Yarn, video 3 of the Shetland series. See you next time.